Hello and welcome to Iron Views TV. On the show this week, we'll be discussing West Ham's spirited yet frustrating display against Chelsea, Winsto Reid's new 6.5-year deal with the club, and look ahead to a tricky fixture against Arsenal. To do just that, I'm delighted to welcome ex-West Ham defender George Parris and editor of Blowing Bubbles fanzine, David Blackmore. Gentlemen, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So, to start off, that Chelsea game, West Ham dominated for large periods, played really well in general, but were unable to find that all-important goal. What did you make of the display?
Oh yeah, it was an impressive display. I think, to be fair, if we'd scored, I think we would have deserved a draw, to be fair. Obviously, a lot better than the Crystal Palace game, so I think we did everything but score, so a bit disappointing in that respect.
Dave, would you agree with those comments?
Yeah, no, I agree. It seems to be that we seem to be performing really well against the big clubs, and yet, you know, you look at Palace and you look at West Bromwich Albion, and I don't know what goes through the psyche of the players as they're going out there. Obviously, they're thinking big club, more people watching, my chance to shine, that kind of thing. But yeah, I think definitely we probably gave Mourinho a bit of a sweat.
And do you think that is a mental issue then, George, if the players can only sort of up their efforts for the bigger games?
Well, it looks that way, doesn't it? On the way the results have gone recently, I think it, only talking from my experience, I don't think you go out and play every game as you see it, but it certainly seems that way from the performances recently.
And is that something that can sort of overcome a squad if there's a general feeling? Can that sort of overtake the whole the team spirit?
It can, to a certain degree. Again, depends on the personnel that's playing, and obviously nowadays the personnel switch quite a bit, so there might be a different team playing against Arsenal.
And whose fault is that, do you think, David? Is that something that should lie with the manager, or is it the players who simply need to sort of just pull their fingers out and up their game?
I think if you look back to it, you know, when George was playing, you know, if whoever you're playing, whether it's West Brom, Palace, Norwich, Exeter, Aldershot, there'd be someone in that dressing room who'd be getting them going. I just wonder in this day and age whether modern footballers perhaps don't have. I mean, you'd argue we've got Nolan in the dressing room, but you know, is he the same as, say, Julian Dix in a dressing room? I don't know if that might have an influence on it. But then again, for some of these players, potentially, you know, you look at Saka and Valencia, you know, they've come to the Premier League, they've had a really good start. They might be looking at some of the teams above us thinking, actually, if I put in a really good performance against some of these teams, potentially that could lead to a move to them. You know, you don't know what kind of goes on, but it certainly has been this season. And perhaps over the last couple of seasons, you only got to look at Mo Diame. He always played brilliantly against the big sides, and yet we played, you know, Wigan on a Tuesday night, and he'd be non-existent. I personally, if I was playing week in, week out, I would want to put in 100% in every week. But it just some players, it just seems that big games, they put in an extra 10, 15%.
Well, you mentioned Kevin Nolan briefly there. Obviously, he's someone who comes under a lot of stick at West Ham, but he played really well against Chelsea. What do you make of him as a player, George? Does he deserve the criticism he gets?
I think he's one of those players, I suppose, if you like, a bit like the way possibly Sam is as the manager. I think you either love him or hate him, don't you? I think it's one of those. I mean, his record up to now has been fantastic. I mean, the amount of goals he's scored and such like. So I think at the moment it's just a case of where do you fit him in the side, to be honest. I think if everyone's fit, whether or not he would actually start would be a question, and obviously that would be about people's opinions, really.
Yeah, I completely agree with what George is saying now. I think when Carroll's not playing, I can't see a place for Nolan in the team. And actually, there have been a few performances, like the Chelsea one, where people have said he's done well. And I do agree. I think he's put in some really good performances. But I still think he's getting a bit old now. I think he's getting old. He doesn't do the same runs and cause the same problems as he did in his Bolton days and his Newcastle days. Or even when he was that first season at West Ham. You know, you wouldn't see him for 88 minutes, but he was just making those ghost runs around and scoring vital goals. This season, I don't see him making as many of those runs. I don't know whether the service to Carroll or, you know, Saka and Valencia, as it may be, has been the same, whether it's because we've been playing two up front rather than just Carroll, Nolan behind. I don't think he's had as much impact in the final third as perhaps he has in previous seasons and at previous clubs.
And then Andy Carroll, you've touched on there. I mean, West Ham haven't actually won a game since he was ruled out with injury. Do you think that means he's sort of more of a crucial part of the team than a lot of people let on?
Yeah, I mean, obviously he was just getting into some form there, wasn't he, before his injury? So that was obviously a shame for Andy. But I think obviously the front men we've got at the moment are more than able to put the goals in, and hopefully they will do again.
And are you a Nolan, a Carroll fan rather, David?
Yeah, I really do like Carroll. it's just, he's the kind of player that you really do need to build a team and build a system around themselves. And I think at Newcastle it worked really well. And I do love him for playing for West Ham. And I think what he brings to the team, you know, there aren't many other players in the world that can bring to a side or bring to a game that he can. But since he's been injured, we haven't done so well in terms of results. But I think the performances have been there. You only got to look at Spurs, United, Chelsea. You know, potentially you'd argue that we possibly could have got 7 points from those games. Yeah. We've come away with 2. And it's been a quality of the sides we've been playing against, I think, rather than, you know, obviously Palace and West Brom, we should have got more from. And actually, overall, I think we've entered a period of playing some quite tough teams. And it's only when you look at the end of the season that there's a lot of winnable games there. And I think we're going a really good run at the end of the season, pushing towards, hopefully, the top 10, top 8.
Well, a claim from some of the fans is that the bar was set too high early on in the season because we were performing really well, getting big results, and now maybe we're coming to terms with how good our squad really is. Where do you think we can go from here, George? Can we sort of continue with a late season push for Europe, or have we just got to focus on top 10 now?
I think realistically top 10, to be fair. Obviously we've got to win a few games to get in that top 8, but I think realistically top 10 would be a decent season. I suppose the problem being, obviously, we start like a house on fire, and then it's like expectations go through the roof, and everyone's talking then about Champions League, etc. Where actually that was unrealistic, to be fair.
Yeah, and I completely agree. When people were talking about Champions League, I like the banter, and you know, Barcelona were coming for you, those kind of chants. But we don't have the strength and depth. We haven't got the players to sustain that. And as you see now, you know, there will be teams that will be grinding out results in certain times of the season when we've just folded, or like West Brom and Palace, just not quite got the results. But yeah, no, I agree. I think 10th, 8th, it's progression. It's another season in the Premier League, and slowly, season after season, we're getting into that stage now where you look at the Premier League and you go, actually, West Ham will be in the Premier League next season. You know, likes of United, Arsenal, Everton, Spurs. At the start of the season, they know they're not going to be in so much trouble. And I think if we can just have another season like we've had this season, but perhaps not, as you say, race off at the beginning, if we just will steady Eddie all the way through, I think we are a mid-table club, overachieved quite a lot, long spells. But yeah, no, I think 10th or 8th would suit us down to the ground.
Well, some of the criticism that's been coming in the last stage of the season is that West Ham didn't really spend at all in January. We didn't look to strengthen what was already looking like a good team.
Yes.
Do you think that was a mistake, or do we want to keep this sort of current crop of players balanced and sort of as they were?
I think it might have been a combination of the two, to be fair. I think it's January's always a difficult window to try and get the players that you really want. So I think that's sort of like just a makeshift, isn't it, really, January? Depending if you're down the bottom, then you obviously got to get 1 or 2 players in to make sure you stay in the division. And obviously if you're up the top, then you might have 1 or 2 to push on. So I think in and around the middle of the table, I think you just go with what you want and then hopefully start looking in the summer, really. Yeah.
I was really hoping we was going to get Roger Johnson back.
I hope that's a joke.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think on paper, you look at the squad, and actually, you can't predict injuries that are going to happen. And as you saw last season, you know, we had so many injuries. But then once we got the injuries back, we went on that fantastic February run. And I think looking at it at the start of January, you know, we probably didn't need to spend too much money. And that's the other thing. It's spending money, and it becomes FIFA fair play, and it comes all of that other elements. It isn't a case of, right, we need a new right back, let's go and find one. You know, if you find a decent right back, it's going to cost you. And I think that's the thing. You've got to open a checkbook. You've got to get the player out. And it's, you know, who's going to take a Colton Cole or, you know, whoever to get them off your books and off the wage bill. So I think we probably did the right thing in the end.
Well, after months of negotiations and what has finally ended one of the most boring sagas in West Ham's history, Winsto Reid has signed a new 6.5-year deal with the club. George, this can only be a good thing, right? One of our most important players sticking at the club for such a long period of time.
Oh, very much so, especially when it looked like he was on his way out. So it's if you like, it's a bit of a coup, really. And although he's obviously at the club already, but yeah, he's obviously been a consistent performer over the years, and yeah, I'm sure that most fans will be pleased with that for sure.
David,
no, I completely agree. It's like getting a new signing because you're keeping a player that we'd had to find a replacement for Reid that would have been the same as Reid. So to have him for another 6.5 years is fantastic. And also we had Noble and Tompkins as well signed. So in essence, we've committed these players for a bit longer. But the thing that I really found strange, and I find it strange about the contracts at the moment, a lot of people disagree with me on it. And I know football's different from the rest of the world. But in the rest of the world, if you've got a contract to present iron views and it's coming up at the end of the season and you don't want to talk about it until you get closer to the time, then that's your prerogative. And that is his prerogative. And had he carried on playing for the rest of the season and at the end of the season said, you know what, I've had some great years at West Ham, but now I'm gonna move on, I'm gonna try something new. Like everyone should be able to do in their working life, should be able to go and try something different. I would have been sad to see him go, but I would applaud him when he came back because what he has done for West Ham when he's been here has been immense.
I mean, one of the things fans have been saying that he's only signed because he's realised that none of the top clubs want him. Obviously, we don't have any proof of this, but do you think that could be the case, George?
It might well be. I mean, that might be the case, I suppose. If you look at who's in the top, would Chelsea need him possibly? No. Man City, maybe not. And so, yeah, that might be the case. But he's obviously he was in a strong position anyway. So good luck to him.
It's probably you'd probably say it's probably only Arsenal that he may potentially have gone to.
Yeah.
For all those sides.
At the top sides, anyway.
The thing is, you really don't know. Is you don't know what happens in the background. And you don't know if anyone said anything. Maybe if you hang out, or you just don't really know what goes on in that. And you don't know what goes in the player's mind. Equally, you might have thought, mate, someone will come into me in the summer. Someone come in for me in January. Then after January, you thought, no one's going to come in for me now, kind of thing. But yeah, no, it's a fantastic signing, really, for us.
Well, sticking on defence, Carl Jenkinson is someone who's doing really well this season for West Ham, and there are rumours that he'll sign permanently for the club at the end of the season. There was a tweet from David Gold even suggesting, when he was asked whether he'd play against Arsenal, he said, basically never again. So with that in mind, do you think that'd be a good move for West Ham?
I think so, yeah. He's done well this season, to be fair. I mean, obviously come from a quality club as well, and he's come in and he's settled down, and he's added to the defence, I think. So that'd be another good signing. Yeah, definitely so, definitely.
I think for me, it just comes down to the money. If Arsenal want 10, 11, 12 million for him, I don't think he's worth it. I think he's a great prospect, and I think he's got the potential, with Presser on the other side, to really be our fullbacks for years and years to come. And I think that would be fantastic going forward. I just think they might want a lot of money for him, and I don't know whether it'd be a great move for Jenkinson. If you're at Arsenal, do you look at the pecking order and think?
I would think so, yeah. That's maybe one of the reasons why he came on loan originally, to get games, isn't it, I think. So I'm sure if there was a deal to be done, I'm sure he would look at that and think, well, actually, he's going to get some game time. So
I think there's a lot of elements to it. I don't think it's a case that he's not enjoying playing for West Ham, because clearly he is. But I think when it comes to the dotted line, he knows this is for a season. And do you want to leave Arsenal, and where Arsenal have had some terrible injury seasons recently? He could have got a good run in the side there, or does he want to come to West Ham? And I think there's that element to it as well as everything else.
Well, Carl Jenkinson's club is obviously Arsenal. Looking ahead to that game, gentlemen, what do you predict going into that one?
Be a tough game, I think, to be fair. Tough game. Hopefully we can put up a decent performance and show ourselves in the true colours. Result-wise, if we get a draw, I think that's a good result for us. A game, realistically, I think that'd be a good result for us. I don't know what you think.
Yeah,
Andy,
no, I completely agree. I mean, judging by their performance against Man United during the week, I mean, that was a great performance. I know Man United aren't great this season, but they really did well, and they're sort of hitting a bit of a purple patch. I know Monaco was probably a bit of a letdown for them, but when we played them last, I thought we had a good chance of beating them, and we performed well that day. Kind of big club syndrome thing again, but we just didn't get the result, and they punished us this time round. I think we haven't had a good run of results, and I think we probably will struggle a little bit more with it.
Moving on now, we've got a very tricky game against Arsenal coming up. Before that, I spoke to Andrew from Arseblog to get his thoughts going into that game.
frustration again with him.
And then finally, Andrew, what's your prediction going into this game? Obviously, it was quite tight at Upton Park back earlier in the season. Alex Song had a disallowed goal that day, in fact. Do you think
that was one of the funniest moments of the season, wasn't it? Where he was like, I'm not celebrating this goal because it's against my former club, and then it was disallowed and he went mental.
Might be funny for you. It was pretty devastating for all of us, yeah.
Sorry, no, I realise that's my perspective on it. But look, I think it's probably going to be a tight game again. It's always difficult to play against a Sam Allardyce team, even if he has changed a little bit. We're in decent form. We were obviously coming off the back of a great win at Old Trafford. Recover from what was a terrible game against Monaco, really disheartening and dispiriting defeat to Monaco in the Champions League, and that's 3 in a row now that we've won. So you'd expect the team at home to keep that going. I don't think it'll be easy, but I would be hopeful of an Arsenal win.
Well, best of luck for the game. Hopefully you're wrong, but yeah, we'll have to see how it goes.
I know how it is. All right, thanks very much.
Right, thanks, Andrew. Bye-bye.
Well, on that note, let's speak to Chris Predicts, the Iron View's resident tipster, to get his thoughts going to that game. We're joined now by Chris Predicts. Chris, how are you doing?
Not badly, mate. You?
Yeah, good, thank you. We've got David Blackmore and George Parris in the studio today. Say hello, guys.
Oh, Chris.
Hi, Chris.
How you all doing?
Yeah, fine, thank you.
Good.
So, Chris, to put it bluntly, you're yet to get a score prediction right, or even a result right. In fact, your younger brother last week, Steve predicts, he got pretty close, if not for a Harry Kane penalty in the last minute. So you need to up your game, basically. What are you predicting for the Arsenal fixture?
I was doing all right until I come on this show, because I think you've jinxed me.
I'm sure we have. So yeah, what would you make for the Arsenal game this weekend, Chris? Are we going to get a positive result?
I think so. I think recently we've been playing well, especially against Chelsea, and I think we just haven't got the result. So I can't bet against us. So I'm going to go for 1-0.
1-0's West Ham, blimey. I'll take that. Definitely.
I know, I'm being optimistic, but I know Arsenal are playing well, but I think we can get something.
And who's going to be scoring that goal in that case, Chris?
Hopefully, after the game against Chelsea, Sacco had enough chances. I think hopefully he can put one away. So I'm going to go for Sacco.
Excellent. Well, let's hope you're right, Chris, and we will we'll grill you next week if you're not. But yeah, come on your irons.
I'm sure you will.
Chris, have you ever bet against West Ham?
I did against the Southampton game. Yeah, and I wasn't very happy about that. But we got quite a good result in that one, so maybe I should start betting against West Ham.
Yeah, I think you should. I think you should start betting against West Ham. And also,
I'm not coming on this show anymore. I'm getting grilled every week.
if West Ham win, you get the joy of that, and you can just tear up your betting slip. And if they lose, you get a little bit of money as well.
Yeah, I think you've got the right solution there. I'm going to start that next week.
Well, if you're wrong again, Chris, I think you really will have to change your strategy. But in the meantime, let's hope you are right, and it'll be a positive result.
Let's hope so.
Thanks, Chris. We'll see you next week.
Cheers, mate. See you later. Come on, you Irons.
See you, Chris.
Bye now.
Well, it's good to see Chris positive as ever. Guys, do you think 1-0 is a good tip? I mean, the odds for that should be up in a second. Might be a decent bet to have there. Yeah, you can see here. So West Ham 1-0, 20-1. Probably a bit of value there. Do you think, George?
Yeah, a bit of value there. As I said earlier, I think if we get a draw, that'd be a good result for us. So I'll go 1-1.
1-0. Okay, yeah, probably 9-1 again. Not bad. Anything take your fancy from up there, David?
I probably the draw actually. The draw at 7-2 is quite good. I think when a team is that heavily odds on, I would probably look, if anything, for the draw. But I don't think West Ham are going to win 1-0. In fact, Liam, I'll take your pound now.
Yep.
If you want to bet on West Ham to win 1-0, and Chris's pound as well, of course.
So you think a draw? Well, I'm slightly worried. None of us think we're going to lose, because it means we almost certainly will. But yeah, let's hope we're hope we are right for once.
Yes.
Now, moving on to the Tweets of the Week section. Every week we ask you to send in your questions for our special guests. Guys, let's have a look what we've got this time. So for George, who was the best player you ever had to play against or with, from Jared P. White?
Well, an easy one to play with would be obviously Alan Devonshire. I was lucky enough to play behind him for at least half that 85, 86 season, and he made my job very, very easy. I used to just give him the ball and then just say, well, if you need me at some point, I'm here. So, yeah, great player. Obviously, it would have been even better to play with him before he had his bad injury. So, play against, I think there's one or two, because I played different positions. I suppose people like John Barnes, when I had to play right back, obviously playing against him. Midfield, Ardiles,
Okay, yeah.
Hoddle, those, you sort of like never get the ball off of them two, to be fair. So that was quite, I would say those two, yeah.
Good
Best
choice.
players with, though, do I not rank quite high up on that?
No, you wouldn't be high up there, Dave, unless it's a top 1,000 million or something, but yeah. Sorry, mate, can't help you on that one.
And then moving on to the next question. So, yeah, which camp are you in? Big Sam in or Big Sam out? It's something that's divided supporters. Where do you sit?
I would have to sit, I would normally sit on the fence, but if I didn't have to sit on the fence, I would say Big Sam in. I just think that he's done a reasonable job. Obviously got us promoting and he's steadied the ship as such, and actually up to now we're doing A-OK this season. So I would have to say Big Sam in, yeah.
Where do you stand
It's
on
a bit
that?
more grey for me. It's a bit more grey area in that in January last year, I was very much a Big Sam out. In fact, I wrote articles about it, went on radio to talk about it. But now, I would probably lean more towards Big Sam in, I think. If we're looking to just have a bit more continuity, you know, we need to be in the Premier League going into the Olympic Stadium. He's going to ensure that. Stick with him.
Stick with him. Fair enough. So moving on to the next one for George. So yeah, did you prefer playing left back or centre mid, and why?
Centre midfield, purely because you're always involved in the game, and I think because of the sort of player I was, although obviously I've been renowned for tackling, etc., I was able to obviously pass the ball a little bit as well and get up and down. So I always preferred centre midfield, but in those days I don't think you could be too fussed where you played with the amount of great players we had in the side.
Well, what about your goal scoring run from centre midfield in 1991? Do you sort of remember that fondly?
Yes, I did. Yeah, I don't know what happened there. I don't know what I must have been eating or drinking over that period. But yeah, a couple of FA Cup goals, wasn't there, and a league goal and stuff. So yeah, it was a bit of one of those. I felt a bit like Tony Cottee going out there. I thought I was going to score every game, but obviously that didn't last.
A bit like Yaya Toure, you could say, maybe.
Yeah, maybe, yeah. A smaller Yaya Toure, yes.
And then, yeah, next up. So we have a picture to come in this in a minute. Out of 10, 1 being hated it and 10 being I still wear them now, how much did you enjoy wearing those short shorts from the Iron Circle? We should have a picture. Here we go. So, yeah, they're pretty tasty. What do you make? Are you still spotted in there?
Yeah, actually, I'll go in the middle. I'll go 5. They weren't. So, to be fair, they wasn't as tight as they may have appeared. But they're quite flimsy. Yeah, they're quite flimsy, weren't they? But I don't look too bad in that one. I'm happy with that picture.
David, can you ever be spotted in that kind of attire in the streets?
Yeah, Saturday nights. That's what I wear. Those shorts, that kit.
Fair enough. So just to wrap up for today, guys, obviously, George, can you tell the viewers what you're up to at the moment? I'm sure West Ham fans would like to know what you're doing.
Yeah, well, I'm based in Brighton. Been down there about 14, 15 years now. So I'm an FA tutor. So I coach coaches. So I do that, as well as being involved at Brighton and Hove Albion Centre of Excellence. I'm a technical director. What a great title that is. And then obviously I still do some work back at the club as a match day ambassador. So
excellent.
Busy.
And then David, you run your very impressive magazine. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's been going really well. I launched it in 2012 just before the season started. I thought there's kind of scope for West Ham fans to have like something to read on like a Thursday or a Friday, you know, on their computer or tablet or phone. So spent a bit of time and money trying to work out what was going to be the best way to do that. And yeah, it's gone from, a few hard copies being sold to, to 1,000 people reading it online. And now we're we're reaching. Well, I think the last couple of issues we've had have been reached 20,000 people each.
Wow.
So. And that is UK and Ireland mainly, predominantly. We have got a small patch in like United Arab Emirates and Australia and America. But yeah, there's a lot of people enjoying blowing bubbles at the moment. But I think that's because we've now gone to monthly, where before we used to be every home game, which when you're playing Saturday, Tuesday, 2 home games, it's very hard to get 2 issues out and try and keep the copy fresh. But yeah, and it's gone really well. And this month we've the last issue, we had an interview with Thomas Hitzelsberger, tried to really focus on the kind of the gay issue and homophobia in football.
Sure.
And yeah, it started a lot of debate, which I think is good, and it needs to be discussed. And hopefully one day somebody could say that they read that interview and decided that they were going to come out as a professional footballer.
Definitely, that'd be amazing, wouldn't it? Do you have a copy down there you'd like to show to screen?
Yeah.
Just so we can, yeah, if anyone...
It's your copy as well.
It's my copy, wow. Look at that.
So there we go. 40 pages of quality writing, apart from Brian Williams and Dear Sam letter, but he didn't hear me say that. There you go.
Excellent, thank you very much. Blowing bubbles. Excellent. Well, thank you to all my guests this week. Thanks to David and George on the sofa. Thank you to Chris Predicts, as always, and Andrew from Arseblog. I think all that's left to say now is, come on, you Irons!